Go Jackets.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. And we got some things to talk about today. I'm not going to do a video that's like a preview where I break down clips and come up with a game plan for North Carolina. I'm not going to do that because really there's no point in doing that. We all know what the deal is as far as us playing North Carolina. But I wanted to take a step back and really take an objective, honest, hard look at ourselves as a program. And by program, I don't just mean athletic department. I mean everything. I've gotten several comments now of people coming at me, coming out of the woodwork, and these are Tech fans. You want to know the truth? The people who come at me the hardest are generally Tech fans. And that's fine, whatever. Type whatever you're going to type. But that'll be addressed too. It's no secret we're not where we want to be right now. And as far as, look, what is my job on YouTube is really to get as many people to watch my videos as possible and to hype up this team, you know. And based on some comments that I've received, I guess what they think my job is just I should just absolutely bury Georgia Tech every chance I get. I should be calling to fire everyone, kick everyone off the team. And there's some idiots that think that's actually a solution. If those idiots ran the program, we'd be more than $300 million in debt. They're people that they look at a problem and they're like, oh, well, if it's not working right now, fire everyone. As if that's not going to make the problem worse. But let's take a step back. I want to talk about how we got here. A lot of younger people. I don't even know how many younger people watch. Not a whole lot. Might not understand that this is not normal for Georgia Tech. And not even younger people that just don't pay attention to Georgia Tech. A lot of people today just think, hey, Georgia Tech sucks, and it's always been that way. It hasn't. Georgia Tech, I think, was second nationally at one time for the longest consecutive bowl appearance streak, which, by the way, ended under Paul Johnson. It's not always been the case. Georgia Tech, for the majority of the past, I'd say 20, 30 years, was a above average team. Almost always finished with a winning record, and then every so often would make a decent bowl. 10-win season, New Year's Six bowl. And that was the norm. And we'd land, a handful of recruits. Every once in a while you'd have generational talent. And Tech always seemed, first and foremost, they might not always be the most talented, but they were generally the better coached team every time we played. Going back to O'Leary, Ross, moving up, and that was the deal with Paul too. Gailey's kind of a interesting case. What get Gailey fired was he couldn't beat Georgia. All right, so I'll start with Gailey. Go through Gailey. Or not Gailey, O'Leary. He was a defensive coordinator on the 90 team. Brings Ralph Regan back. That's who Coach Key played for. And in the later part of the 90s and, 2000, 2001, Georgia Tech was the second best team in the ACC. They couldn't find a way to beat Florida State. But always well coached. And then what happens? Notre Dame poaches O'Leary from us. I'm not going to get into what happened with O'Leary. Bring in Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey was good for seven wins a year. And I've often said, what would have happened if we wouldn't have fired Gailey when we did? He had a top 10 class coming in. And I think that's, when we brought Paul in, I think that's really when things started getting out of hand. And look, I know Paul Johnson won a ton of football games for us. He's a College Football Hall of Famer. But the offense that he ran probably set us back a decade. Or, in other words, we didn't progress on a whole as far as where college football was going while he was here. We already have an impediment in recruiting with our academics, and I don't know why this is so freaking difficult for people to understand. Notre Dame, Stanford. I've got Georgia Tech fans in here sounding like Uncle Lou. Let me read what Bad G Karma, I guess. He says, talking about Key, he has been responsible for the O-line since 2019, and people who thought it would be any different now is just insane. Already some verb tense errors there. That's okay. It's just biding time until his firing mid-year 3, as there is not ability to fire him prior to that. So this guy would be okay with firing Key now. And I guess he's some kind of prophet, Nostradamus here. And he knows that we're going to fire Key year 3. That's good. He was selected because he was the cheap and easy selection. This is a very common narrative. Whining about who you expect Tech to get because it's a tough place to win the academics is just Pee-wee League complaints. Who wanted to coach at South Carolina before Lou Holtz came and turned the program around? Well, Lou Holtz was kind of an idiot. Who wanted to coach at Stanford when Harbaugh showed up? Who wanted to coach at Colorado? I'm not even going to go into Colorado. They've got issues of their own. So now Tech is in the cheapest man suffers the longest. Buckle up, Buttercup, as you're in for a long and miserable ride with Key. First of all, I suggest you don't say buckle up, Buttercup, to a grown-ass man. You can definitely come meet me at the game and find that out. Let me break that down. So, every major at Tech requires Calculus 1. We're the only school in the country that I know that's the case. Okay? So that's going to have to be something you're going to have to work around. We were never going to get Coach Prime. I wasn't a proponent of getting Coach Prime because he wasn't going to want to deal with that. But I guess that's just Pee-wee League complaints. I mean, don't look at the facts. Looking at the facts and the reality of the situation is just Pee-wee League complaints. I mean, it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to work around. Lou Holtz didn't have to deal with that at South Carolina. I'm sure there's basket weaving they can put kids in there. And Stanford is an excellent academic school, but they have majors that are more catered to athletics than Georgia Tech. Was Key probably the cheapest solution? Yeah, he probably was. But like I've said, I think he understands what it's going to take to win at Tech. He's the best mesh of that and experience with winning programs like at Alabama. And by the way, our O-line is not the problem right now. If that's what bad G karma, his take is, then that's Pee Wee League, man. That's just Pee Wee League assessment. Let's go back to Paul. We bring in this triple option offense. And the thing with the triple option offense is, for the most part, if it's done well, if it's done right, and Coach Paul, as far as just getting kids prepared to play, one of the best we've ever had. But it's like a double hit to recruiting. Because four-star quarterback, and look at all the great quarterbacks that have come out of the state of Georgia. You can't even have a conversation with them. I mean, there's a 0% chance that they're going to come to your school. And I've said before, I think the administration at Tech saw that Paul was able to do more with less. And it was like, hey, we don't have to keep progressing and staying up with the times of college football and evolving with what college football is doing. Toward the end of Paul Johnson's stint at Tech, before he retired, the winds of change had already blown in to college football. And when he left, I know that Collins really used it as a crutch until the day he was fired, but it was a massive roster overhaul. We missed a bowl under Paul, and things were really in the decline on his way out. I really think that Paul was a good coach. I don't know that we should have hired him. You know who we could have hired instead of Paul Johnson? Cutcliffe. We could have hired Cutcliffe. I think that would have been better. We hired, Jeff. I don't think anyone was critical of that until we saw the product that was going to be on the field. And that's the thing with these comments. Like, I comment on things with the evidence I have at the time and what I see. And then they want to come back around and be like, see, I told you everything was awful. I told you should just be this indefinite pessimist and sadist toward Tech and yourself. I was going on based on what I saw at the time. What I'm saying is, with hiring Paul, like Tantor said something that really has me shook, honestly, and that administration outside of football is kind of, sports is like this nuisance they have to put up with. It's not, they don't really care about it. And that makes sense to me. When I look, if you're going to land big recruits with consistency, you've got to have an attractive NIL program. That's now step 0. And we didn't really have any even semblance of NIL. We had some little stuff sprinkled in. But we didn't really have an NIL program until Jay Batt got here. And that's really a crime. I mean, what were we thinking was going to happen? Like, we were going to let the whole world of college football change basically how they did business. And we were still going to try and do business the old way. I don't really know how you overcome the non-football administration not being behind it. It kind of makes me sick. I do think Maybe the silver lining is Jay Batt from Alabama knows what it takes, and maybe he can convince him. I do think we have the right guy in with Jay Batt. Let me read this comment from Trajan Tycoon. It says, I remember telling you on your first video titled First Impressions of Georgia Tech Louisville with WreckTalk that it looked like we didn't improve. Funny enough, I remember you saying we improved because we scored over 30 points. Your only criteria for improvement was based off a point total. Hi, I'm a straw man argument. Here we are 7 weeks later, and I still stand by my statement. And judging by your frustration, it seems like you finally took off those gold fandom glasses that had you blinded. Up to that point, the only evidence I had to what kind of team Tech was going to be was the 8 weeks as interim that Key had, the offseason hires, the spring game, and the Louisville game. If judging the team for this year was only based off the Louisville game, and your conclusion is we didn't improve at all, you don't know football. Is there anyone who thinks if you just looked at Louisville that you didn't feel like we were an improved team? And it's not just based off the point total. It's based off the players that we brought in. It's based on just how we looked offensively and defensively. Yeah, we folded, particularly defensively, in the second half of the game. So it looked like my assessment was we might be a tad bit worse on defense, but we're way better on offense. By the way, Georgia Tech offense is rated 36 overall based on rushing and passing yards. So our offense definitely is better. And just looking at that game, we seemed like a better team. Now, I am a fan. So, yeah, I am going to be more positive on the team than maybe what reality is. I mean, Tycoon, what do you want me to do? Just come in here and take a big dump on Tech week in and week out because that's what you do? All right, we're not the same, you and I. I have a job to do, and I guess your job is to type things, tell me you told me so weeks later. You could be right that we're a worse team, and you probably are. But it's not based on anything you saw in the Louisville game. You're right by coincidence. If you just look at the Louisville game, we look like a better team. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not my normal self. I mean, I'm not happy about any of this. Like, we're arguing with each other in the comment section. It's like you're either in the camp of everything's fine or someone said we need to dissolve the program. Like, if you're anywhere in the middle of that, then both sides are saying that you're some kind of idiot. Anyways, Jeff Collins, one of the worst hires ever. I don't blame us for making it. I blame us for the contract that we gave him. That's why Todd Stansberry isn't here. Have to pay him $11.37 million, which is even more of a gut punch. Because there were some things non-football that I think he had right as far as marketing the team and whatnot. And I think that gave administration like, okay, yep, this doesn't work. See, getting with the times doesn't work. And maybe not saying that it's just a bad hire. As far as Brent Key, I'm not going to say, like, how could I know whether he's going to work out or not? Here's what I can say. I think he knows what it takes to win at Tech. I think he knows what it takes to win nationally. Don't take away what he did building up Central Florida with O'Leary and winning 2 national titles at Alabama. I mean, people that are wanting to judge and write this guy off and say he's just like Jeff Collins, garbage coach after 7 games. You guys will have us in a position where we never win another game, period. Firing a head coach for things that are not off the field issues 7 games in. What's wrong with you people? Every head coach has a really rebuilding period year 1 of getting their guys in, setting their culture. You generally have a new staff, even if they have experience as a head coach. It is rare that a head coach comes in year 1 and lights the world on fire. There's growing pains in that first year. And you idiots will have us indefinitely in that growing pain stage, because you'll just fire a guy 3, 4, 5 games in every time. But I'm never going to give up hope. Like I said, I feel like, unlike some people, like, I love this team. I'm not just going to say with a 7-game sample size that everything's screwed up and that we need to disband the program and go do something else. That ain't who I am. We're not the same. Let's give Key some time. These are the same people, by the way, I guarantee you, that said them calling to fire Mario Cristobal in year 2 was silly. Both things can't be true at the same time. C-Dog talked about Texas. And basically last year, they had to have a come to Jesus meeting and be like, look, if you can't get behind what we're doing here, the way we do things, the culture we're setting, and the direction of this staff, you might need to go somewhere else. In fact, you do need to go somewhere else if you can't get behind that. We're probably going through that now. And how does Texas look this year? Best they've looked in the past 20 years. That's how they look. I get it. We're fans. It's short for fanatic. We want to win right now, especially with where we've been. But it's going to take time. Now, as far as North Carolina, look, I know we've played them well. I know we have this, like, loss, win thing. North Carolina is 38th in the country rushing offense, 10th in the country passing offense, and just total yards combined, they have the 5th overall offense in the country. Let's talk about Georgia Tech's defense. Rushing, they're 132nd, which I think that means there's only one team worse at rush defense than Georgia Tech. 65th pass defense, 125th overall defense. It's absolutely awful. As I said before, we have the 36th ranked offense. North Carolina has the 65th ranked defense. If we don't get pressure on Drake May, and I have no reason to think we will, even with bringing pressure, they'll have 500 yards offense through the air alone. And this is what I hate, man. Like, I get on here, I bleed white and gold, then I have, like, Tech fans trashing on me for trying to be a little bit optimistic at times. Now, I guess I'm an idiot on that. I should just only be negative. And then I got to hear it from other people too. Like, I'm going through it with you guys. I'm in the trenches with you. I have no reason to think that we're not going to get blown off the field at Bobby Dodd. That being said, I don't expect it. Like last week, don't expect it. Wouldn't surprise me, if we pulled off some miracle against North Carolina. And if you do that, you bring back hope, but you got to find a way to get back-to-back wins in Charlotte the next week. I think we're much improved on offense. I don't think so. That's empirically evidenced that we're a much better offense. Yes, Haynes King has taken a step back over the past few games. Let's see what happens against North Carolina. Defensively, like I've said, I think we have personnel issues. I think if you've seen, we've parted ways with some recruits. If you're in, Bryce Kuhn's Discord, he's talked about, it looks like we've reevaluated and pulled some scholarships from people in this nearest class. I think that could be to open up scholarships for the portal in the offseason because we have some immediate needs on defense. From what I see, Mola has 1 year of eligibility left. So does Andre White. So does Braylon Oliver. That's 3 linebackers we're losing at the weakest position we have on defense right now. We're going to need at least 2 people to come in and be immediate game changers at that position. But there's still hope. You come out, handle business, and I've thrown out making a bowl. I think the most likely situation is we win 2 more games. That's what I think. Beat Virginia or Syracuse and then pull an upset off against someone else. And again, we don't want to hear it. I've said this is probably the lowest point. This is the low apex in Tech football year over year, and I do think it'll get better. Moving forward, I do think we have the right guy at the helm. I do think we have the right AD at the helm, and I do think this can be a successful team. So tell me what you think. Tell me I'm an idiot for saying anything positive about Georgia Tech, and I'm just some fanboy with gold-colored glasses on that should only take dumps on the team. Y'all have a good one.